Celtic threw away a two-goal lead at Tynecastle yesterday, and the red card controversy is absolutely exploding. Martin O'Neill is furious, the media's divided, and we've got transfer news heating up with just days left in the window. Plus, Thomas Kavankara's debut got people talking. It's been a dramatic 24 hours, but first make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Yesterday at Tynecastle was one of those games that had everything: drama, controversy, and 2 points dropped that could prove costly in the title race. Celtic went into the match knowing they needed all 3 points against Hearts. Martin O'Neill made two big calls in his starting 11. Tomas Kvankara was handed his debut just days after signing from Borussia Mönchengladbach, and Benjamin Nygren started in midfield instead of Reo Hatate, who was on the bench after his sending off in Bologna on Thursday. Celtic started well and looked in control. They raced into a two-goal lead and everything seemed to be going according to plan. The Hoops were cruising, Hearts couldn't get near them, and it looked like the 3 points were in the bag. But then everything changed. Austin Trusty was shown a red card, and that's when the controversy really began. The decision has divided opinion across Scottish football. Martin O'Neill was absolutely furious on the sidelines, and he didn't hold back after the match either. Once Trusty was sent off, the entire game flipped on its head. Celtic had to defend with 10 men for over 10 minutes plus added time. Hearts didn't suddenly become world beaters in open play, but the constant pressure from set pieces and recycled attacks eventually told. The equaliser came from another dead ball situation, which had been Hearts' main route back into the game all afternoon. Celtic had given them very little in open play, but set pieces proved to be their undoing. What makes this so much harder to accept is the complete lack of consistency from the officials. Similar contact earlier in the game was either waved away or punished lightly, but when the stakes got higher, suddenly the threshold moved. That creates absolute confusion for players and genuine anger for supporters, because nobody knows what standard is being applied from 1 minute to the next. Referees are human and mistakes happen. That's understood and accepted. What's far harder to swallow is a system that steps in through VAR to magnify those moments without any clear justification. The 2 points dropped could be massive. Hearts are top of the table, and Celtic can't afford to keep giving points away like this, especially in games where they were completely in control. Thomas Kvankara and Julian Araujo were arguably Celtic's two best performers on the day, which proves that when the club actually invests in quality, it makes a real difference. Both January signings stood out, and that should tell the board everything they need to know. Martin O'Neill will be absolutely raging about this result. His team did everything right for most of the match, controlled the game, created chances, and then had it all undone by one controversial decision and some poor defending from set pieces. The title race is far from over, but these are the kind of results that come back to haunt you at the end of the season. Now for the main story, as, with just 7 days left in the January transfer window, Celtic are still scrambling to reinforce a squad that desperately needs quality, and it now looks like they're eyeing Norway international Felix Horn Meyer. The Brann midfielder is attracting serious interest, with reports in Norway claiming Celtic have identified the 24-year-old as a target. He registered 4 goals and 5 assists last season and is seen as a creative engine in the middle of the park, which is exactly the kind of profile the Hoops are lacking right now. However, the Scottish champions face stiff competition. Danish side Brøndby are also keen and are reportedly ready to table a €3 million bid. It's unclear if Celtic are prepared to match that fee or whether they'll let another potential reinforcement slip through their fingers. The need for signings couldn't be clearer. Yesterday's 2-2 draw at Tynecastle might have been frustrating, but it highlighted just how much impact January signings can have. Tomas Kvankara and Julian Araujo were arguably Celtic's two best performers, proving that when the club actually invests, quality makes a genuine difference. Martin O'Neill, speaking after the Hearts draw, was asked about more signings and whether 3 or 4 could still come in before the window slams shut on Monday, February 2nd at 11 p.m. His answer was absolutely blunt. He said, "I don't know about your numbers, but definitely we would need some people in." That's not the answer Celtic fans want to hear with just a week left. It suggests the club still doesn't have a clear plan, and that recruitment is still being done on the fly rather than with any real strategy. Celtic have a Europa League decider against Utrecht on Thursday, then Falkirk in the league after that. This week will define not just the transfer window, but potentially the entire season. If the board lets this window close without proper reinforcements, especially after what we saw yesterday at Tynecastle, then serious questions need to be asked about their ambition and their ability to back the manager. The clock is ticking. 7 days to go. Let's see if Celtic can actually get some deals over the line. In other news, the Austin Trusty red card from yesterday's match is causing absolute chaos across Scottish football. The decision to send off Trusty has become one of the most talked about incidents of the season so far. Martin O'Neill was absolutely furious after the match, and he didn't hold back when speaking to the media. O'Neill slammed what he called a remarkable decision. He questioned why VAR stepped in for that particular incident when similar challenges throughout the match had been dealt with completely differently, and he's got a point. The referee at the centre of the controversy is now facing fresh criticism, with calls for VAR to stop interfering in what many are calling subjective decisions. The argument is that VAR should be there for clear and obvious errors, not to re-referee incidents that could go either way. Mark Clattenburg has now weighed in on the debate, making his VAR stance crystal clear regarding the trusty red card verdict. Former referees and pundits are all divided on whether it was the right call. What's becoming painfully obvious is that there's absolutely no consistency in how these decisions are being made. One week a challenge is a yellow, the next week it's a red. One match VAR steps in, the next match they stay silent for something that looks identical. That inconsistency is what's driving managers, players, and supporters absolutely mad. It's impossible to know what the threshold is anymore, and that creates confusion and anger on all sides. The SFA have now issued what they're calling red card corrections after Martin O'Neill's blast, but there's still an interesting VAR mystery that's been left completely open. The guidance given to officials appears to be changing game by game, which is simply not acceptable at this level. Celtic fans are understandably livid. Their team was cruising, completely in control of the match, and then one debatable decision changes everything. Lastly, Thomas Kvankara made his Celtic debut yesterday at Tynecastle, and the Czech striker delivered a confident message to Celtic fans after his first appearance in the hoops. There was no easing in period for Kvankara, no gentle introduction off the bench. Such was Celtic's need. The striker was handed responsibility immediately, and in one of the most hostile away environments in Scottish football. Tynecastle is a pressure cooker at the best of times. For a player who's barely through the door, it was a baptism of fire. But Kvankara handled it well. His inclusion had a knock-on effect elsewhere in the team. Dyson Maeda moved back to his natural position on the left wing, restoring some balance and pace to Celtic's front line. The two big calls Martin O'Neill made were bringing Kvankara straight in, and the midfield decision to go with Benjamin Nygren instead of Reo Hatate, who was on the bench after his sending off in Europe on Thursday. Kvankara was one of Celtic's better performers. He looked sharp, he worked hard, and he showed real quality on the ball. His assist for one of Celtic's goals was absolutely stunning, a clever piece of play that showed exactly why the club moved to sign him. After the match, Kvankara spoke about his debut and sent a confident message to the Celtic support. He said he's ready to fight for this club, ready to give everything, and ready to help Celtic win trophies. That's all for today's Celtic news. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. We'll be back later with more breaking news and updates. Come on you, boys in green.